Welcome to another episode of AMA Ask Me Anything with Theresa Shepard, our resident expert in all things risk management. She is a little genius when it comes to insurance issues as well. And I recently, Theresa, have had a lot of clients asking me about commonly rejected claims that are getting rejected more frequently, I guess I should say. What are you seeing around this, and what is the reasoning behind it? Can you give some your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, a lot of things that I see, I'm getting the same questions. Why is this getting denied all of a sudden? And most of the claims that I see getting rejected most recently are really having to do with perio, like root planings and things like that. And some companies that you're in network with, the first thing I have to say is if you're in network with any company, take that binder home and read it cover to cover, because there are a lot of things in there that you didn't know you agreed to when you signed on the dotted line. And those things can turn around and bite you pretty easily. So please be familiar with your contracts. The second thing is there are a little nuances in those contracts. I have had recently some offices tell me now they're getting their perio maintenances denied, not downgraded to a pro fee as often they will do. The insurance companies will reassign the codes sometimes for processing procedures, but just flat out denied because it's been more than 24 months since root planing, so this is no longer an active perio patient. So the question then becomes, is this an active perio patient? Do we need to retreat their perio condition, or are they in a stable monitoring type situation right now? So it really just kind of depends. One thing that I see often is lack of documentation for root planings. And so it just gets really mishmashy, and you may say something that just says, root plane upper left quad, Cavitron hand scale polish. Again, that's not defensible. We don't know what teeth were scaled. We don't know the condition. We don't have the perio diagnosis. We don't know what the charting numbers were. We don't know if there was hemo or bone loss or calculus. So there's a lot of things that are not in that documentation that needs to be. So when insurance companies say, send me your chart notes, well, if your chart notes don't say anything, you're still not going to get that claim covered. So that's part of the frustration. It's like, I don't know why they've asked for chart notes. I sent chart notes. They asked for x-rays. I sent x-rays. Well, when your bite wings aren't diagnostic and they don't show bone level, and you didn't perio chart, and your narratives don't say anything, send all you want. Send it 14 times. It's not going to get covered. You can't defend what you did. You can't prove it, in other words. So it's really important to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some ways is there a checkoff list or way that you can make sure that you have your ducks in a row before in order to send a claim with everything that it needs to have?
Well, it's going to all go back to your documentation, because the person that's sending the claim can't make stuff up. Right. They do every day, all day, and it's a frustration for them. I often see insurance billers or insurance administrators, practice administrators say, I don't know, he didn't write anything down here, so I'm just going to go based on what I know, and I know this tooth has a big cavity. It's like, you can't do that. That's not you're not licensed to do that. So, but they're frustrated because they can't pull information that's not there. The doctor's not doing that. So we have to just get those things documented. It's got to be the diagnosis. Why are we doing something? You have to prove clinical necessity. Why are we doing it? what did we do exactly? And, what's the prognosis? What's the next steps? If we're talking about route planning specifically, I have a really good example of some documentation, a template that I'm happy to offer, to our viewers and clients. Just as an example, do with that what you will, make it your own, but it does need to be really that detailed.
Well, thank you for that. I will put the link in below so that you can access that wonderful offer. Theresa, thank you for that.
Happy to do that because it really needs to be, and that one template will also help people understand just how documentation should look, regardless of the procedure. If it's a perio procedure, if it's a crown prep, if it's a prophy, anything, it's really important to line item those things out. One thing that's really frustrating when I'm looking at records documentation is if something's just kind of like all over the place and I have to read through 3 paragraphs to figure out what was done. So it's a lot cleaner to kind of have your line items out and then your narratives to go with your line items. So I can look down and scan like the left side of my narratives and see where the prep is, where the crown buildup is, where the gingivectomy is, where the x-rays were, where the exam was. And it's not lost in this wordy paragraph, yet it's documented more succinctly, makes it just a cleaner document all along.
I love that. That'll be a great resource for everyone, because if there's one thing that is a continuous theme in our AMAs, it really is amazing documentation, having that in place. So that's a great resource. Thank you for that. We are here as a resource to you. Join us June 3rd at the leadership, the Synergy Leadership Summit, where Theresa will be sharing lots of great education on risk management for practices. And that's June 3rd. So we'll leave the link below for that as well. Join us next time on another AMA. Thank you, Theresa.
Thanks, Laura.